Hi, my name's Shane. I use she and her pronouns, and this is the second session of Fate of the Fairy Queen, a quarterly game. It's a reskin of Fate of Cthulhu from Evil Hat Games, but our heroes are trying to prevent the rise of a Fae army and their terrible queen rather than a Lovecraftian abomination. The series was organized as part of the Gauntlet gaming calendar. If you're not familiar, the Gauntlet it's an online community that plays, discusses, organizes a whole lot of role-playing games with a focus on Indian story games. If you would like to find out more or get involved, you can check out gauntlet-rpg.com or at gauntletrpg on Twitter. I'm going to ask the players to introduce themselves now, as well as their characters. For both you and your character, just your name, pronouns, and anything else that you want to tell us about them or about you. But in particular, if you made any changes after the last session to your character, please tell us about them. Jose, could I get you to go first this week?
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Jose, and I use he and him pronouns. And I am playing Dr. Alonso Cifuentes, aka Dr. C. And he is the one member of this gang, four, that is from the present, although his future self came back with them, was supposed to come back with them, but somehow disappeared in transit. But he has been recruited. I did make a couple of changes to Dr. C, and let me just go over them. I changed a couple of the secondary aspects. So the new aspects are, and these are kind of based on how he was seeming to me that first round of play. An iron fist and a velvet glove. So to give him a little bit more of a punch at times, but keep his soft demeanor. Then I came up with Sleeping Beauty. I think Dr. C has a tendency to fall asleep at odd times. It's not quite a full-on narcolepsy. I think he just needs to sleep, take naps every once in a while to digest his experiences. So he could be compelled to fall asleep at some inconvenient time, no doubt. And the beauty part is, who knows, maybe he just looks really good when he's sleeping and people want to kiss him. It could be that, or anything else that you want to take from the fairy tale.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
If we come across this, a cursed spinning wheel, then it'll be bad news
some
for
big
Dr.
trouble,
C.
yeah.
So I thought that was a little more compellable aspect. And then I also changed his stunts. One of them I took, which from a list is disturbingly insightful. Your skill at reading people makes you adept at provoking a strong emotional response if you try to make them angry, depressed, or something similar. You may use empathy in place of provoke to make mental attacks.
Cool.
That seemed consistent with him. And then I also decided, since he's pretty squishy, that I'd give him a little bit of training in Aikido, and he gains +2 to athletics when he's trying to dodge a physical attack. So he's good at sidestepping.
All right, that's awesome. Thanks.
Okay.
Matt.
Hi, my name is Matt. I use any pronouns. I'm playing Bear, whose true name is Shanad, and yeah, I'm sticking with my high concept, fairy borderland farmhand turned rebel captain. I think I can maybe tweak it with a word here and there, but it's a bit all-encompassing. Still getting the hang of these aspects, but yeah, I've added my enchantment aspect as Whispers of the Wild. I'm thinking that Shanad's ears have become notably pointed. And I think he picks up on whisperings and chitterings and squeakings from the wilds. And I think a lot of the time they come in like ominous portents and strange cryptic messages. I think they can be very distracting for him. I don't think it's like full-on beast speech, but I think sometimes he can sort of communicate with them a little bit, but I don't want it to just be like I'm going around talking to animals all the time. But I'm thinking this could be a fun like change for Shanad, where he's getting to know the wildlife of New York City and the pigeons and the rats and all those sorts of little vermin creatures, very different from his home. Yeah, we're going to learn a little more about Thorn, the fairy enforcer that he is in love with. And yeah, I meant to have another look at the stunts. I'm going to pull some stuff from online and just tweak right now. So by play, I should have my stunts ready to go. I'll figure out how to word the Whispers of the Wild and figure out if this protective charms one is going to work for us. But I think it helps to have a bit of Fate literacy. So I think as we're playing, I'm starting to get a hang of how to use what.
Yeah, for sure. Cool.
And Shanad's pronouns are he, him.
Thank you. Kyle.
I am Kyle, he, they, playing Maeve McClory, she, her, the turncoat changeling infiltrator. Since last time, I've added the fourth aspect, my other free aspect, always have a go bag to basically just, she, always has tools like emergency kit, weapons, whatever.
Cool. And Lol.
So my name is Lowell, pronouns he, him, and my character is Fadim Bekara, she, her. This is our kind of punchy character with a little bit of some anger issues, a former shield maiden of the Fae, and we'll see how that plays out.
Cool, thank you. So just a few things that I wanted to mention before we get started. One is that we are using a set of safety tools. So we have our safety and resources tab if you want to check the lines and veils. The X card, the open door, also available. One thing that I'm hoping that will get done by the end of today's session or next week or so is filling out those relationship aspects. So do think about like how you're interacting with the other characters and what's might make sense for that. Especially if there's a point where you really need an aspect to invoke, filling one in to your benefit would be totally appropriate. And the other thing is refresh. So just if you ended the session with less than your refresh in fate points, then you increase your fate points up to your refresh. So where I want us to pick up is like a couple of weeks after the last session. You've had a little bit of a chance to start to settle in. So I wanted to ask you some questions about that. So starting with Dr. C, these three have turned up in your tiny apartment, which they have effectively trashed. Arguably, it was the swordsman that did that, but there's three of them. The apartment is very small. They obviously can't stay with you. So tell us a little bit about what you've done to source them accommodation or where they're staying at the moment.
Okay. I think there's a residential hotel nearby, kind of downtrodden, but Dr. C knows the owner and has set them up. Maybe I don't know if they're all sharing. Maybe a room, a big room. Maybe they're having to share a bathroom down the hall too, which might be, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I think it's about a block away from Dr. C's place. And Dr. C's probably also helped them get a little bit more appropriate clothing for 2022, so they don't stick out quite as much as their I Love New York t-shirts. Yeah, so
right.
Trying to get them settled into New York life.
I just want to make sure we're all happy with that. You're all sharing a large room in this residential hotel just near Dr. C. Great.
One big bed.
So Shanad, the three of you arrived with no money. You stole a little bit of cash to get started. The Dr. C is not really in a position to fully fund the four of you. I mean, I imagine that, a psychiatrist at Bellevue is probably reasonably well paid, but certainly not, rolling in money. So, what are you or what are the three of you doing for money? Like, are you just robbing people? Have you found yourself a job? Like, what's happening?
I like to think that I've taken some kind of groundskeeper work in Central Park or another large park in New York. I'm a big guy and I know the land, and I mean, that is what Shanad would want, but is that really what he ends up with? If anyone else has ridiculous ideas, but I'm thinking about his enchanted aspect and something he might be drawn to, and a way where he can be haunted by the way he was changed in coming here.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we're going to be playing out like a lot of workplace scenes or stuff. I just wanted to sort of set the scene a little bit and figure out what the setup is. So I think groundskeeper at Central Park works great.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's see. Maeve, I realized that I didn't have this in my notes from our last session. So I did want to ask, like, whereabouts does the younger Maeve of the present live at this point?
I don't know New York. We're in New York City, right?
Yeah.
I don't know the area super well, but in a relatively nice neighborhood with her family.
And I mean, how are you feeling about that? Like, are you tempted to tell her about what's coming, whether that's, what's coming, like a terrible supernatural apocalypse is on its way and you're part of it, or whether that's like, don't swipe right on that one person on Tinder?
I don't want to mess with my own personal timeline in case I screw up whatever causes me to defect eventually.
Right.
I'm loyal at the moment.
Yeah.
But I did I probably like spied on my family a little bit. Like, oh, hey, we're all still alive. Oh, look at baby me.
Nice. Cool. Thank you. And Fadim, like, you've had a pretty hard life between, growing up around Europe, becoming a fighter, becoming a shield maiden, becoming a defected shield maiden. Like, is this time in like New York winter where you've got a couple of weeks of like settling in and not doing much? Like, is this a good time for you, or how are you feeling about it?
This is me. I'm both like there's a lot to be had in New York because there's a lot that's been burnt to the ground in the future, but at the same time, it's also kind of on the edge. And I suspect that she has been going and finding the sort of the worst of the, hey, we're going to do MMA kind of people that are out there, not like real MMA, but the people who think they're going to do it and fight, and that's how she's getting her money, is off of those fights.
Yeah.
And I do have one thing that I've been thinking about in terms of, this is sort of tangential to that, but in terms of the relationship to Maeve. So one of the things is that I think that I am like really kind of resentful about Maeve's having been, a changeling and having loved somebody and having fallen. And that the reason for that is that, like, that's what happened to me too, but I'm not going to admit it. That, I was in love with the Fae that I served, and then I got bounced out. And I'm kind of maybe a little bit is that I'm still kind of angry that Maeve can still have some affection.
You said Maeve. Do you mean Synod? That's the one with the in love with the Thorn, the Faerie Enforcer.
That's right. Oh, I've got both of you mixed up. So ignore all that, except for the MMA stuff. There
Well,
we
maybe
go.
some resentment is circulating, it sounds like. And Maeve, is there a way that you're getting money as well, or are you relying on the others?
I think I'm running like small time scams, hustling some pool, that sort of thing.
Oh, nice. Cool. So we're going to start on the first of the 4 timeline events that you will play through on your way to confronting the Fairy Queen herself. And we decided that we're going to start with the Gingerbread Church. So I just want to go over the basic info that you know about this. And by basic info, what I mean is, in the future, you had this quite extensive dossier prepared of details, dates, locations, things like that. And Dr. C was the one who was across all of that detail. When you've arrived without him, like, you sort of remember some stuff, but you don't have those precise details that he would have been able to fill in. And in the future, this is information that you had gleaned from, your memories of living through this era the first time, from historical research, resistant psychics, all sorts of different ways to gather information. But what you know is that there is a Russian mob boss in New York named Alexander Kochet, and a government witness named Maxim Solonik, in a case against him, recently claimed that Kochet was in league with fairies to build something called the Gingerbread Church. This is kind of like a comical news story. People recorded it. The assumption was that this guy was too scared to really testify, so he made up this ridiculous, seemingly mentally unwell sort of story. But obviously you suspect that there may be an element of truth to his story. And partly that's because in the future, one of the Queen's most feared lieutenants is a sorcerer named Kochet the Deathless. And so you are left to wonder if this Alexander Kochet may be the same Kochet. You also know that around this time, there was a war or a sort of battle within the New York Russian mafia that Kochet ultimately won, and that 2 of his main rivals, Marat the Butcher Kolonov and Sofia Baba Yaga Onyani, were killed. You also know that Kochet was involved in some sort of charitable construction project up in the Catskills, some sort of clinic for the terminally ill around this time. And I think that's basically what you have by way of background. I want to get to a scene where you sort of sit around and talk about how you're going to tackle that, what your plan's going to be. But first, I just wanted to have a little bit of a montage and just go around and give everyone a scene where they do whatever sort of prep or research they might want to do before they make a plan, if that makes sense, whether that's researching the crime families, the relevant folk tales, acquiring weapons, like whatever you might want to do to get ready before you make a plan. So, Dr. C, would you like to go first?
It seems like Dr. C would, there are 2 things that come to mind in terms of research and prep. I think Dr. C would try to find out about this facility since he has contacts, I would think, in the world of, institutions of this sort, care institutions. And so he might try to find out anything he can about that facility and the history of that facility, and whether any unusual occurrences have happened there. So that's one thing that I think Dr. C would be doing, probably from his office over at Bellevue, calling colleagues and tapping into the grapevine that way. And then the other thing I can imagine him doing is trying to research some of the lore. just to remind me, the two people of interest, they were killed. Is that what you said?
So in the present, neither of them is dead yet, but you
Neither of them
believe.
is dead yet. Okay. But we
Sorry, I
know that
just
they
got to.
will die.
Well, you know that they did die in the original version of this timeline, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Whether they'll die. So, sorry, I'll just fill in some details on that timeline so that it reads a little clearer. So Maxim Solonik was the witness who gave the evidence about fairies and gingerbread, and Sophia Onyani is a rival mob boss.
Okay. And you said something about Sophia having a Baba Yaga kind of
Well, so that's her. You know, all these gangsters have some sort of nickname that people know them by. So
Okay.
yes, Sophia is known as Baba Yaga.
Okay.
Surely an innocent nickname chosen purely because she is a woman from Russia. All right. Well, why don't we start? Just go ahead and make a roll for the research on the history of the institution. So I reckon, I'm just thinking about what skill would make sense. Maybe contacts or investigate. I'm still trying to get my head around the skill list and be a bit clearer about what skills are appropriate. And just a difficulty 2 for this, like you're not seeking out anything particularly secret or hidden. So you're muted.
Too many windows. Sorry. So that was a -2. So it was a poor roll.
Do you want to use some aspects here?
Let's see. What aspect do I have that would be relevant? No, I'm just going to say that he comes up with empty-handed on this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess what you'll find is that
if that's a failure, I mean, I don't know what a failure is.
Yeah.
Maybe someone finds out that he's actually. You tell me.
Oh, that's interesting.
Asking around.
What do you get on a failure and overcome? Choose whether the action fails or you succeed at a serious cost. I mean, I think in this case, you probably just don't find much information. So, you know, definitely people that you know are talking about it. You know, they're surprised, perhaps a little concerned that this infamous mob boss is, you know, turning to charity. Is it about money laundering? Like, what's going on? There are rumors that he's made job offers to some people in the field, but you can't really track down anything very specific about what's actually happening there or what's, you know, what the plans are specifically. Might come back to researching some lore. Shanad, what do you do by way of getting ready?
I think that the Queen's most powerful and terrifying servant. Gosh. So Shanad has a lot of history on the front lines. I think he was fighting with his various rebel bands like right up until the last, and I think he lost most of his friends. So he's very much lived through a lot of the like the front lines of the fighting. So I don't know how much of it is like active research. I mean, I have lore 3 to reflect all the stories that I know and all the just like incidental fairy lore that's living in my brain. So maybe I go and while I'm working, I talk out loud and tell stories out loud to the various animals that live in Central Park, and every once in a while I get a response. or a little bit of prompting, and I feel like I'm kind of working through the mystery just by orating. And maybe I'm specifically curious about these if the fairies that were involved in their rivals and any other kind of like fairy qualities. I guess just like the storytelling nature of it. Does that make sense?
About Koshé in particular, or
about Koshé and his rivals, kind of like about the drama between them, and I guess Koshé in particular because he is the queen's most powerful and terrifying servant, and I have been fighting the queen for a decade.
Yeah, okay, that's cool. So go ahead and make a law roll. I think difficulty 2 again. So it's an overcome action.
Overcome action. Okay. So I have lore 3, and I'm rolling. It's four dice. Is that right?
Yeah, 4. That's right.
Thank you. Well,
Do you want to invoke an aspect?
I have a head full of grandma's fairy tales. What else is it for if not for this?
Right.
Um,
So that will bring you up to a success if you spend a fate point.
let's do that. I'm not sure how refresh works, but we can get into it. I can look.
So you just start the session with your refresh value in fate points. So
Okay.
you always start with at least 3.
Got it.
Cool. So what would you know? So, I mean, I think that in the future, Koshé is notorious for having crushed all of his rivals. That there's no one who survives very long as a rival for him in the wastelands of the Fae apocalypse. The main thing that you know about him is the story that he is not exactly immortal, but the reason they kill him the Deathless is because he has removed his soul from his body, and he can only be killed if his soul is found. But he has hidden the soul in a needle, and the needle is hidden inside an egg, which is hidden inside a duck, which is hidden inside a dog, which is hidden inside a chest, which is hidden on an island. So that is the main rumor about Koshé that you know.
Yeah. Journey to the other world, is it? So yeah, I think I'm telling the story out loud, and I'm trying to recall the details, and I'm like, a needle inside an egg. Where's the egg? What? And then I just think I see like a flock of ducks flying by. That's it. There it is. They honk down at me. So it's just kind of like whoever's working with me is just like in their protective vest or whatever, just like raking leaves, just looking at me. So yeah, I think that's good stuff.
Cool.
That's a tale.
Sweet. And Maeve, what about you?
I think I'm gonna just hang out with gangster types and just sort of chat them up like, oh, hello, fellow gangsters. Heard any rumors lately?
Like just a general rumor, like very broad, or is there anything in particular that you're looking for information about?
I think just starting like very broad, just to see if anyone's talking about anything.
Okay, so I think that'd be a rapport, overcome with rapport.
All right.
With a difficulty again of 2.
Sorry, I just realized I don't have the dice roller open.
I'll post you a link if you want.
Yes, please.
1 sec. There you go.
I got a 4.
Nice. So let's see. I'm just thinking about what rumors, the sort of low-level organized crime gangster wannabes might be able to tell you. The So, I mean, I think that one of the rumors that you'll hear is that everyone believes that Maxim Solonik, the witness, is already dead. No body has turned up, but that's consistent with everything that people know about Cochet. His victims' bodies or suspected victims' bodies never turn up. Nobody seems to know exactly what he does with them, but it's one of the reasons why he's been so slippery and resistant to prosecution, even though he's widely suspected of so many killings. Does that seem like enough for your success there?
Yeah, that sounds good.
I mean, I guess you also, you've met up with some gangsters. There's people you could talk to if you decide to follow some of those chains and leads later on. All right, and Fadim, what are you doing to prepare for this?
I am scrapbooking. And by that, I mean, I am going through all of the public reports and internet stuff and things like that. And I want to get for us a picture of who is in Cochet's sort of gang, or lieutenants to direct reports, all of that, versus Baba Yaga and what that sort of line is.
Mm-hmm.
Because Cochet's in a few stories. He's famous, but he's in a few stories. Baba Yaga's in a lot of stories. And I think that's the wedge that we need to get going here. If they are truly embodying that, then Baba Yaga is getting the short end of the stick, and we need to play with that.
All right. So what skill do you want to use for that?
Maybe I think investigate.
Yeah. All right. So go ahead and roll to overcome with investigate. I think, again, difficulty 2. Some basic information about how the gangs are structured or work.
So that's a 4.
Cool. So I guess you'll find that Cochet and Baba Yaga have been pretty willing to work together for the most part. Less tension between them than any of the other major mob leaders around. Baba Yaga is mostly involved in the drug trade, whereas Cochet has diverse criminal interests, but not so much. Hasn't really been involved in drugs. You'll find that Baba Yaga has a pretty classically structured organized crime gang, if that makes sense. She has the usual structure of trusted lieutenants, captains, things like that, down to street guys. But Cochet's crime family is famously more complicated. All the experts say that the way that organization is structured is bizarre, that he is clearly losing money by having such a complex structure with all these weird redundancies and branches that just seem to go off to nowhere. And it seems like he is more concerned, perhaps excessively concerned, with his own safety and his own not being caught at the expense of making money. Whereas Baba Yaga, that's not true. And I guess you'll find the names of probably their key, captains or seconds in command or things like that. I know I've already loaded you up with quite a lot of names. Do you want more names, or do you want to just assume that you know who the big players are?
Let's assume, and then we can kind of throw them in play. I do have one question.
Sure.
What happens to Baba Yaga in the future? We know Cochet becomes his lieutenant.
So
what happens?
According to the historical records, Baba Yaga is about to be killed.
Then that's what we need to play with. All right.
All right. And just coming back around to Dr. C, you mentioned that you might also look into some of the law as well. Do you feel like that's been covered in what other people do, or do you want to? Is there something specific that you'd like to look at?
maybe I do want to look at something specific quickly. In terms of Baba Yaga, Dr. C knows a lot of the stories. They're famous stories. Her shadow curdling milk and shit like that. But I don't know that he remembers any weaknesses to Baba Yaga or any way into manipulating her. And so I think that might be one way of one piece of research that he might want to do.
Okay. I think Baba Yaga's weaknesses are probably a little tougher to suss out. So maybe a difficulty 4 using law.
Okay. All right. Let's see where we're going here. And I'm using lore, so that's a 4 right there. So we'll see how that goes.
Ooh.
So I got a 3.
So that's going to be a failure. Do you want to use an aspect? Do you want to spend a fate point to bring that up to a success?
Sure. How about using the high concept attuned to the supernatural?
Yeah, for sure. That works for me.
And I'll just add a 2 to that. That'll be a success, right?
Yeah, that's right.
5. Yeah.
So I mean, as you read, go back over the stories about Baba Yaga, I mean, the consistent theme is that she's beaten to the extent that she's beaten through trickery and deception, that she's very wily herself, but normally when she's overcome in a story, it's by someone who outsmarts her.
Okay.
All right. And so the 4 of you, I assume, will meet up to talk about what you've learned and what the plan is from here. Do you want to set the scene? Is this in the big residential hotel room, the cramped apartment? Is it a diner somewhere in between? Where do you all want to meet?
I like the idea that we're in the laundry room of that apartment building, like we've kind of taken up that space and are there. And we probably are also doing laundry at the same time as we're having this conversation.
At your apartment building or at Dr. C's?
Oh, our apartment building, because it's probably it only has a laundry room and probably a really terrible one.
I love it. I like that I can hear the soundtrack in my head if you're in the laundry room. Everyone happy with that? All right. So, Fadim, it sounds like you've got the inklings of a plan starting to come together.
So we know that Baba Yaga dies and dies soon. And so that's a big change. I don't know. I mean, Koshe is very clearly, in the future, he is that. Whether the person who calls himself Baba Yaga is another question. But they're involved with this, so they must know something. So I think we need to save Baba Yaga, and we need to create a rift. She may be the only one who could conceivably lay her hands on Koshe's hearts and bits and all of that.
Yes.
And ducks.
Ducks and dogs and chests and on an island. Yeah. I'm not about to go traipsing across New York looking for it, so.
So perhaps we need to charm the old witch, or tip her off to her potential death.
I think as you say that, one of the residents comes in to pick up their laundry, sort of looks at the 4 of you quite suspiciously.
I have an answer if they've overheard that. As soon as they come in, I see they overheard that, I grab a die and I roll it on the table.
looks at you even more suspiciously now. Just like loads his laundry into a basket. He drops the newspaper that he'd been reading and he walks out. And you all see that the headline on the newspaper is that Russian mafia murder. And it is a news report that Marat, the butcher Kolonov, a rival of both Koschei and Baba Yaga, was killed overnight.
That's a big move.
Events seem to be proceeding apace.
Death begets death begets death. And Baba Yaga must be next.
I also have a question for those of you who are smarter than me and perhaps a little more in tune with the mythos. Why gingerbread? Well, what does that mean?
It's tasty, makes for a good tale. It's your tummy a rumbling.
But in this context, why did we call that event the Gingerbread Church?
So the witness who gave the evidence that Koschei was connected with fairies also claimed that he was building something called the Gingerbread Church. That's where the name comes from.
That may be something we look for in the Catskills too.
It's a good place to hide a cult.
In a tasty house.
Mm-hmm.
Good way to
I
bring
got a
in new
question.
membership.
Right?
I got a question. How far are we gonna go with this? Are we in full on the enemy of my enemy is my friend? Anything that helps Baba Yaga is good? I mean, she's either a witch who kills people or a mafia person who kills people. I mean, I guess anything's better than the queen, but still, I just want to know what we're doing here.
Weren't you once a witch that kills people?
Changeling. I just spied on people.
Fair.
I think we have to hit the ground and see what's going on before we can make that assessment.
So, Fadim, is the idea if they both live, then they tear at each other, and it doesn't allow Koschei the opportunity to rise as high as he did.
That's my hope.
I like it.
I mean, here's the thing. I don't think we can kill Koschei. So we have to do everything else we can to disrupt him. Now, of course, I mean, and I've thought about, you put him in concrete and wrap him in chains and throw him in the river. However, I think we all know that she who waits could find him and get him out.
She waits and she watches.
So I think we have to go to these Catskills.
Sounds good.
The fine doctor here, he'd be at home there. He could guide us through.
He snores gently.
Oh,
He knows how to speak the language.
here's a question. Do we know if the doctor has a car or not?
I shake Dr. C and go, see, the queen's attacking.
What?
You're bringing me back, girl.
Haven't you learned not to wake me up that way, Maeve?
How do we get to the Catskills?
We
And
take
don't
the
say
train.
practice.
We take the train.
Okay.
I don't know how to drive.
You knew that by the look of your apartment.
Uh,
I don't think any of us know how to drive.
Certainly not in New York City.
Uh, I never drove before all this went down, and there weren't really cars afterwards.
Ride a horse.
Train it is.
Penn Station.
Right. So is what is the plan to like just walk in? Do you want to sneak in at night? Are you going to pretend to be workers? Like, what's the approach?
Let's get to the Catskills and let's do a surveillance. If it's at all woodsy, then that's to your advantage, Bear.
Yeah. Yeah, and we also have a doctor who could feasibly be bringing some of us out to check out the facilities and see if it would be a good home for us or something.
So, I mean, Dr. C will definitely know from his research that it's still a construction site at this point. There's not actually a functioning clinic.
Then we definitely need to get on the site and see what they're building there, what materials they're using.
All right. So you have a lovely, I don't know, how long would it take to catch a train from New York to the Catskills? I'm just going to rely on anyone who might know more about New York than me for these
At
times.
least an hour, maybe.
Yeah, okay.
An hour or two.
Right. And then, yeah, so it's quite cold at this time of year. It's probably been snowing up on the mountains, but you can find your way to, a sort of relatively concealed position where you can look down on the site and decide how you might want to approach it. It looks, what you can see. So it is clearly under construction, but it's an old hotel resort that's being repurposed. From this distance, you can see that there are construction workers, going in and out. There are trucks. There are some skips full of rubbish out the front. It's adjacent to sort of immediately in front of a large lake that looks to be frozen open with a little frozen over with a little shack in the middle, like you might use for ice fishing. I think that's pretty much what you can see from this distance. What do you want to do?
I think I will just go ranging into the wilds around the Catskills. And I think, it'd be good for folks to be around, but I think to just get a little off on my own and get back into the mode of wandering through the deep ancient woods of my homelands, and also tap into some of the enchanted feeling of being sent back through time, that kind of ritualistic quiet. And I think my ears grow a little longer and twist a little bit, maybe even throb. And I think I'd like to listen to what the beasts and the birds and the bugs have to say about this place. They might just be strange, discordant whispers, but I imagine they have seen some things and maybe felt some powerful presences come through. So just kind of picking up on residual impressions on the wildlife.
Okay, I love that. I might just go around and ask what everyone else wants to do, and then we'll resolve some of the stuff. But so Maeve, what are you thinking?
I'm gonna try and find a bar where the construction workers hang out after hours, and just like chat them up. Like, hey, I've got a kid brother looking for work. What's this gig like? Anything? How's it going? I guess.
Yep, cool. That sounds good. Fadim, what are you thinking?
I think at this point, I just kind of look at the doctor, because this is really not my bailiwick. And I think I just kind of look at the doctor like, okay, I'm going to be following you.
Well, Dr. C.
I was initially thinking I would just follow Maeve, but if Fadim is following me, then we'd all go have a drink at the bar while the bear is out roaming. But the other possibility is when night falls and the construction is stopped, maybe Fadim and I could go into the property itself and look around. That seems like an idea. There won't be anyone around. It seems like a remote area. What could go wrong, right?
That sounds good to me. So let's say that you arrived like fairly late in the day. You had a chance to like scout the scene. The sun goes down, the workers head off, and you're all ready to sort of start scouting it out. We're almost on the hour now, so let's take a break and we'll come back and resolve some of that stuff. So we'll come back in about 10 minutes.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Right, is everyone ready to keep going? Cool. Well, let's start with Dr. C and Fadim. So you head on down the slope towards this construction site after everyone's left. Tell me about like how are you approaching this? Are you going to try and be stealthy? Are you going to just barge on in? What's the plan? I think Fadim is following your lead, Dr. C. So
Okay. Well, I think we should be quiet and stealthy if possible, and look from afar and see if we can see any activity. We really want there to be no activity before we move in closer for a peek. And I think Dr. C is just trying to get a feel for the place. If there's anything unusual in his gut telling him that there's something odd going on here, or someplace that his intuition might want him to move towards or away from as he goes in. Yeah.
all right. So I mean, definitely from the outside, you cannot see any signs of activity. It doesn't look like anyone's there. If you nevertheless want to remain stealthy as you approach, then that will be a stealth check,
Okay.
which I think Fadim would make on behalf of the two of you because she has the
Higher.
better stealth skill.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And I'm just going to roll for the opposition. I don't think I'm going to shock anyone in saying that there is some opposition in here, despite saying that there's nothing shown. Okay, so I think that your stealth works. So you approach the building. Nobody has noticed you coming yet. I'm happy to let that stealth roll stand until there's a reason to make you roll it. Until there's a reason that might change. Around the outside, you see, it's pretty consistent with it being a mundane construction site. The skips out the front, the dumpsters are full of, what looks like, old carpeting and bits of, construction materials that would have been ripped out of an old hotel resort. There's scaffolding, there's construction equipment, there's all things like that. What do you do?
Adim, you are the stealthy one. Do you think we should go in here without backup or continue to surveil from the outside?
I am your backup.
It's true.
That's why I'm here.
No offense meant,
No.
my friend.
I say, if we're here, we bite the bullet.
All right. Let's find a way in.
Okay. It's a good
So if
thing
it's
I
a-
have burglary.
Yeah. If it's a construction site, I imagine there's windows missing,
Yeah.
or doors
Yeah,
missing, or
yeah.
or
I
things
won't
like
make
that.
you roll for burglary. You certainly can find a way in, and it won't take very much sneaking around before you hear and see signs that there is something or someone here. Towards the back of the first floor, it looks like there's quite a large room, and you can see faintly light shining out under the door back there, and you can hear some sort of sound of movement coming from inside that room. Just to let you know, I've also set up a tab in the Keeper for Catskills scenes and set up some aspects in there for the different things that you're all doing. They're pretty basic and boring. If anyone has more exciting aspects they'd like to put on the scene, feel free.
Okay. And do the sounds sound like voices, or we can't tell what the sounds are?
You're going to get close enough to make that distinction?
Yeah, I think we're trying to get some information here. So let's
Yeah.
that we don't think we've been detected. So
Yeah.
if we can get a little bit closer and see if we can hear anything.
You definitely don't hear voices. The sounds of things moving around or being moved, it sounds like there's some sort of machinery being run. But the main impression that you get as you close in on this room, and it's closed but clearly not locked door that you could just pop open if you wanted to, is the smell of gingerbread.
Baking.
Maybe we could like crack it open just enough to use your phone.
Wow.
Look through the camera thing in there.
So Dr. C pulls out his cell phone and approaches the door and just tries to nudge the door just a little to see if there's any creakiness, obvious creakiness.
I think we'll say that it opens that inch smoothly without any noise.
All right.
And then
He has silenced his phone so that it won't make it the weird little clicky camera noises. You're thoughtful. And he sticks his hand in a little bit and takes some photos. Is there a lot of light in this room?
there's not a lot of light, but there is some light.
Mhm.
It's a kind of reddish light you notice as you open the door.
Like from is it flickery like a fire light or
not like a fire, but like like some commercial ovens might look.
got it. I think they're baking in there, Vadim.
All right, and I think we'll come back to this scene after some of the others. So Bear, you were going to head off into the woods and sort of open out your senses a little bit.
Yes, I think this is a meditative practice for me that I'm familiar with, something I would do to ponder strategy. And because even though the fairy threat was coming from the forest and had dominion over the forest, it was important to be in relationship with the wilds to understand their movements and to understand how to fight them in their own home and in my own home as well.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think I've been hearing these whisperings, and it's been harder to get in touch with them in New York City. And now that I'm out here, I'm just drawn to the trees and the creek and the mountains. So as much as I'd like to be drinking in a tavern and also backing up my friends, I think this makes sense. So I've chosen my Whispers of the Wild stunt, which allows me to communicate with animals. It says using a combination of speech and gestures. I don't think I do too much communicating. I think it's more they communicate to me. But this is one I pulled from online.
Yeah. So I think that what we'll say is that you are surprised as you head into the forest to find that there are not animals in the forest in the way that you'd expect. Like even at this part in this time of winter, the birds, even insects, things like that that should be around just aren't. But you do sense animals nearby in the frozen lake down below.
I've spent a few days on the ice before. So I think I'll go for it. I think I'm going to go tap a hole and lay down on the frozen lake and just listen to the depths. I'm fully in it now.
Okay. So I mean, there is that like little hut that's probably for ice fishing. So there's probably a hole carved in there already. You want to head into the hut?
Yes, I'm going to go investigate the hut.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, it's set up with a few poles and things like that. There is sort of block and tackle hanging from the ceiling over the hole as if it's intended to raise and lower something into the frozen waters below. But yeah, go ahead and roll to see if you can communicate, get some sort of information, some impressions from whatever's living in the lake. Maybe using rapport.
I had been thinking of rapport, especially when just kind of like if animals were disturbed or their attention was elsewhere, to kind of just maintain a connection long enough to get something from them. In this case, it's a little bit of a deeper, more challenging communication, but I think rapport is probably still appropriate.
Yeah, and you get +2 to your roll for your stunt if you want to use that stunt.
Yeah, I'll use the stunt.
All right, so don't forget that you mark enchantment when you use the stunt.
All right. And I think I'm kind of drawn out into the hut in a bit of a reverie, and my ears twitching and elongating. I think they're like stretching out back behind my head at this point. And yeah, I get down and let's see what this gets. So I have 2 rapport and a +2. Let's do it.
All right, nice.
Wow.
So I'm just going to roll opposition for this one. All right, so you succeed. So the impressions you get from the creatures below, hard to figure out exactly what they are, is of like anger, confusion and hurt. They are very cold. Like you get the impression that whatever these animals are, they're not meant to be living in an icy lake, and a strong desire for vengeance.
You will not swim long in your icy prison, for I desire vengeance as well, and you will have it. I whisper into the hole in the ice.
Is there like I'm happy to let that success stand if there's other stuff that you want to try and like, other impressions that you're looking for or something like that.
Is there fear of a like supernatural power within them?
Oh no, the fear is definitely of something unnatural or someone unnatural. That's clear to you.
And I guess they've been under the ice, so they may not have been like seeing comings and goings like a bird might have.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you were to plunge down into the icy depths, you might be able to get more specific information from them. In fact, I am tempted to compel your King of the Beasts aspect. So because you're the King of the Beasts, you are tempted to plunge down into those icy depths. So you can do that and accept a fate point, or you can reject the compel and spend a fate point. Give me a fate point for that.
Vengeance will be yours, creatures. And I tear my shirt off. And yeah, absolutely.
Gonna head down?
Yeah, animalistically just dive into the water.
All
and
right.
I head down.
All right. So we'll come back and see what happens there. But let's go to Maeve. So Maeve, you found the local bar where some of the construction workers go after work. What do you do?
Just sort of ask around, buy people a few drinks, just be like, hey, I've got a younger brother who's like looking for work. What's this gig like? Is it okay? They treat you well? Anything weird?
Okay, go ahead and just roll with rapport. I think they'll be, yeah, I mean, they're going to be friendly enough, but it's really to see whether you get useful information. So it's, yeah, absolutely do. You smash it. So that will be a success with style. What do you get for success with style? I don't know. Overcome action. Sorry. Let me just check. You not only succeed, but you get a boost. So a boost is just an action, an aspect that you can only use one time. So do you want to give the boost a name?
Friendly crowd.
Yeah, okay. So I'm just gonna pop that down, in the bar as an aspect. So it has one free invoke, but only you can use it, and it's gone as soon as that's used. But yeah, so I mean, tell me about the person that you start talking to. Like, you're looking for, do you strike up a conversation with a man, a woman? Like, who are you looking for specifically?
Anyone who looks like they've been on the job a while. So I guess probably like an older guy.
Yeah, older guy. And what's like, how does Maeve like approach an older construction worker? Like, you say that you want to talk to him about your brother.
Yeah, just be like, hey, I've got like a young brother. He just got out of high school, looking for work. You know, he's
Okay.
done some construction. What's this gig like?
Okay, so I think that he like, you know, initially looks a little disappointed when he realizes this attractive young woman has just come over to talk about a job for her brother, but he's a friendly enough, you know, he's a decent guy. He's happy to talk to you. He says that it is a decent job. They pay union wages. The hours are a little shorter than what you're used to, although, you know, travel time kind of eats into that anyway. What else will he tell you? Okay. Yeah, I mean, the other stuff that he'll tell you is that like it seems a bit weird. Like, the guy's a bit eccentric running the job. He has funny ideas about the order that things should be done. Very specific, but you know, he's been good to us. He pays well, he pays on time. And what more could you want?
Okay, I think I'll follow it up with like, look, I mean, I read the paper. I see about this guy. I don't want like my family to get into any kind of trouble. Like, are things okay?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you do construction work in New York City, you're going to work with some rough types at some point. He's been, you know, none of us have seen him face to. I mean, I haven't seen him on the site. I heard he's been around there a little bit, but you know, seems, all I can say is he's treating us okay. We haven't had any trouble.
All right. That sounds like all the information I'll get out of these people. So I think I'll just call it a scene and try to get back to the rest of the group.
All right. I mean, what will probably come across as you talk to a few people about this stuff is that when he says the hours are a little shorter, they've been directed very specifically not to start work before daybreak or after sunset. They can only be on the site during daylight hours. They all consider that to be an amusing eccentricity, and because it means their days are a little shorter than they might be otherwise, nobody's complaining about it.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. So, Dr. C and Fadim, so what, like, maybe I'm not quite visualizing what's happening with the phone. Are you looking through your phone as you record, or is it more like your hand is around the corner, you're not looking in, you're just making a video to see what's going on inside?
It's a short video.
Okay.
And so then he retracts the phone and guides Fadim over into a corner, and they look at it, and you can see the light of the screen kind of shining on their faces in the dark as they're both kind of poring over the video that the phone just took.
Sure. So they like, it is quite dark. It's not easy to make things out. You can see what look like sort of dark figures wearing dark cloaks scurrying back and forth around what appears to be a large kitchen area. You can see that there are these sort of commercial convection ovens set all around the outside of the room. What dominates the room is a sort of micro construction site within the construction site. And it's clear to you that they're building a building out of gingerbread. That's what's coming out of the oven. They're assembling it like the foundations of a building. You can see that there's, like, mostly it just looks like the sort of beams or floors and things like that you would expect to be put in first when you started building something. But you can see that there's something in the middle of this gingerbread construction site, a small box or crate or dark shape, something like that. You can't really make out what it might be.
Chest. The
Um,
dog.
I think that's probably really all you get from your short video.
How many people?
Yeah, you can't really tell that because it's dark. It's a large room. They're wearing dark colors, but it looks like there must be, what, 10 to 20 of them.
That's a lot of people. What are our options here to get a closer look?
I could, it's dark. I could sneak in and see if I could get a closer look. But I have to leave you out here by yourself. What do you want me to do?
I could create a diversion, but would that alert them too much?
It would alert them, yes.
If you get into trouble, what should I do?
Run?
Run? I could run. All right, Fadim. Your plan sounds good. I'm with you.
I said, sort of bristle when my plan is said. I don't want to take the blame solely for this. All right. I will get down on my hands and knees, open the door as little as I can, and try and slide into the darkness there as best I can.
Okay. And Dr. C, you're just waiting quietly outside.
I am trying to spy in through the crack in the door to keep an eye on Fadim.
All right. So Fadim, the first thing that you notice that you couldn't see on the video is that these cloaked figures, one of them sort of gets up close to the oven, so there's a little light illuminating what should be their face, but there is no face there. There's no skin. There's just the cloak, and you can see shadows as well, as if a face was casting shadows, but the face itself doesn't appear. So they're oddly invisible and dark and shadowy. They have the bearing of sort of witches, I guess, in these dark cloaks, a little hunched. The shadows sort of suggest feminine features. And you can still see, you see the same thing, that they are taking gingerbread out of those ovens, mixing gingerbread, putting it into the ovens, and they are assembling it into this large construction. What do you do?
What kind of ovens?
So they're commercial convection ovens. So they're kind of like, they have layers of shelving. They're about as tall as a person, can fit, like 8 or so racks in there.
So they're electric.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Come out, and I say, I will leave, go back the way I came, and I will say, it is too bad that all of us are idiots when it comes to like anything mechanical.
There might be a fuse box somewhere or a breaker box. Do they work on electricity?
Yeah. I could probably break a fuse box if we need to do that. How about we establish where it is? Take another glance around and then get out.
That sounds wise. And
Okay.
then come back with our compatriots.
It sounds like a plan. That's what I do. We're trying to figure out where the fuse box is.
Yeah, I reckon investigate for that, just for the difficulty of 2.
Okay.
A little hard to do in the dark.
Yeah.
So how do
Two.
like two people doing? Oh, you just did it. Okay, great.
If you help out and you have the thing, then you can either give me a +1, just say I give you a +1, or you can create an advantage
I see.
to help me that way.
Okay.
So in this case, the +1 that you can offer because you have a rank in that skill will
Mhm.
move that from a tie to a success.
That's good. I'll do that.
So you find the fuse box. I mean, if you have a little bit of a look around otherwise, like you confirm that there's no one else around at this time.
It really seems like that's the key thing that's happening here. It doesn't it's like there's other big activities going on.
Like not right now. What you confirm as you move around is that it does seem like apart from that, they are building a clinic. I mean, Dr. C, that will be clearer to you, I guess. It
Mhm.
does look very much like they're setting up a hospital or a hospice or something like that.
Mhm.
You know, the layout, the rooms that have already been sort of built, things like that all suggest that to you.
That's the day shift, right? And the night shift is baking.
Mhm. All right. So let's go to Bear. So Bear, you plunge into the icy water. Go ahead and roll to defend with athletics as this horrible looking, screaming mermaid woman, someone starts clawing at you as you plunge below.
Okay. Athletics is 2, I believe. Yes, 2 athletics. Come on, fudge dice, be my friend. Yay.
All right, I'm just going to roll the attack. Okay, so that's a 2. I think I will spend one of my fate points in this scene to bump that up to a 4. So she's going to do 1 point of damage, unless you also want to use you want to use a fate point. She's going to draw on the icy water. She's going to invoke the icy waters aspect. You know, that moment of shock and confusion disorients you enough that she's able to get her claws at you.
And would that point go to my physical stress, or?
Unless you want to spend a fate point and use an aspect to bring your defend up to a success.
I kind of like taking a hit. I've been enchanted.
Sure. So yeah, just one physical stress.
Okay.
And then do you want to attack her in return, or do you want to try and is there something else that you want to do?
Is there something to making an empathy roll to determine if she's just defending herself or if she's like actively malicious, like how much of a chance there is to try and speak to her or communicate?
Yeah, I reckon you could. Well, I'm just thinking about this because Fate is also quite new to me. I mean, you could make an attack roll using empathy, perhaps, because if you stack enough mental stress on her, she'll be taken out of the scene, and that's kind of the way that you can, like, convince someone to stop when they're attacking you. You could use empathy or rapport to try and figure out, her motivations. Or you could try and create an advantage using empathy or rapport.
I think that I've just been invoked as king of the beasts, and I think attacking fairies has been my thing for a very long time. So I think I'm okay to try to fight her to submission. So I will attack back with fight.
Okay. Go ahead and roll the attack.
It's a 3.
All right. She will roll her defense. That's a 1. She'll take 2 stress. And that will be enough to take her out. Do you want to describe what that looks like?
Yeah. I think that we as the two of them are kind of like plunging underwater, swirling around each other, claws and fists. I think that there is she goes for his chest with her claws, and we see that he has a 4-leaf clover tucked into his front pocket. And I think her claws like stop short at his chest, and he uses the opportunity to just like just smack her and then pull out his iron and kind of like hold her back and into submission.
Cool.
And he's a little bit ravenous and like kind of feral looking. Like I think he's the ice has like driven his body into shock, and his ears are twitching, and his eyes are not like his own.
And what will he do?
What will he do? I mean, he came down here to hear better. So I think he'll like hold her, like, and hit, holding his breath and try to like achieve a moment of stillness and like kind of transcend the rage that has come over him, and try to like, I guess, intuit where her like rage is coming from, or just listen to the body of water that he's in for what comes to him. So I think he's just going to create a moment of stillness after subduing the mermaid.
Okay. Yeah, I think roll to overcome using empathy.
Yeah.
And as you do that, as you experience, you try and create this moment of stillness where you can figure out what's happening. You also notice that there are more of these women swimming around in the water, in the dark, in the distance. You can sense all around you they're approaching.
Right. Ooh, thank you, Fudge.
All right, let me see what the opposition will be. All right, so you succeed. So you sense that this woman was once a seal, and that Koschei stole her skin from her and has let all of these women who are swimming around in here desperate for revenge have had their skins stolen from them and are being used by Koschei to dispose of the bodies of his victims.
Yeah, I look sorrowfully at the hands. Maybe like I go from holding her shoulders to like holding her hands and her claws, and just kind of looking at them and knowing what she's been basically made to do, or what she's been driven to do.
Mm-hmm. I mean, your breath's got to be running out, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think all the rage and it all kind of drains out of me, and my eyes become undilated, and there's a moment of like fear, or like when the empathy kind of takes over, and there's a sorrowful look, and then I sort of like get a steely look in my eye and like nod to them and hold up one fist, and I think comically, and then just dash back up to the surface. But yeah, thinking of new ways to dispose of this man. Vengeance taking me over.
All right. And Maeve, as you sort of get back to the area, I think that you see Bear like lurch up out of this little shack in the middle of the frozen lake. You see, Fadim and Dr. C around the outside of the building. Is there anything that you want to do in particular?
Hey guys, there's something funky going on in the site at night. They don't want any of the workers in there at the time. I think they're up to something.
They are baking. Many
They're baking a house.
witchy faceless things are baking.
All right then. Huh.
Yeah, I mean, you see the other three have kind of gathered by the construction site. Do you want to head over there as you pull yourself together, or?
Yeah, I think Bear comes over dripping, a bloody gash on his chest, no shirtless.
Mr. Bear, you look very cold without your
Fadim,
shirt.
you're muted.
Well, what happened?
There's women in the water. They used to be seals. They had their skins stolen from. Now they want vengeance upon the man of the house.
Yeah, I realize that you're a big, tough, burly man who loves the outdoors, but it's snowy around you and you are soaking wet and half naked. Like, what are you going to do about that?
Yeah, I think I'm just finishing the adrenaline rush of the polar bear dive, kind of, and I think I'm just starting to realize that I will be contracting hypothermia in a short amount of time.
Does anyone have a suggestion to help Bear out with that?
We should get to some kind of motel or something right now.
I mean, there's a very warm room just inside the construction site, if that's tempting to anyone.
Full of ovens.
Yeah.
What time is it?
Let's say it's getting close to midnight.
Oh, the witching hour.
Let's go inside. We found a way into the construction site. We'll at least get you out of the cold and wind, and we can talk about what we're going to do from there.
Probably a good move. You can see my ears are still pointed. But yeah, I'll head inside.
Right. So the four of you head inside. You find somewhere, sheltered at least, where you can have a conversation.
So, if we want to be proactive, we could cut the fuses, which would interrupt their baking and kind of freak them out. And then we could go up there and we could beat the shit out of all of them.
Counter offer, we block the doors and light the place on fire.
What are they baking for?
Yeah, we don't know what they're baking for. I don't know what other exits they have, because they certainly didn't come through commute here. So they probably have a magical pathway out.
If we were to cut the electricity, do you think they would send out 1, 2, 3 of the little witches to investigate?
There is only one way to find out.
And then when those 1, 2, or 3 little witches mysteriously disappear, will they send 4, 5, or 6 little witches out?
I fear that they'll call somebody else if it gets too bad, but we can at least see what they do. And if they call something that we can't handle, then we can back off. Sound good?
I feel like I have read somewhere about these kind of invisible witches who bake ...
That seems fair.
Can I remember?
Are you trying to create an advantage, or you just want to see what sort of information?
Try to create an advantage with lore.
Well, yeah, go ahead and roll.
Can I help with a +1?
Yeah, I guess you can. I think you can do that on a create an advantage action. You have law.
There might be some gingerbread tales.
You're trying to recall. So what sort of advantage are you trying to create here? You're trying to remember something about their weaknesses or how you might draw them out, or
Yeah, something about them. I feel like I've remembered something about them or their nature or their idiosyncrasies, maybe something like that. So anything that will create an advantage for us. Right. So that's a 5.
all right, I'm going to let them roll opposition, but I don't think they are likely to beat you. Oh, they certainly will not beat you.
They didn't roll well, those little invisible witches.
Yes. But, I mean, you're welcome to define the advantage that you create if you want, but I mean, I think what you remember is that these sort of shadow witches would be disturbed by bright light.
By bright light.
So you've succeeded with style. So whatever you want to call that advantage, you're going to get 2 free invokes on it.
Okay. Yeah, we'll just call it photosensitive.
Sure. I'll just put it in there. Yeah, so Dr. C reminds you all that these witch shadows are sensitive to bright light. That might be something you can use to your advantage, although you are considering cutting the power to the building. So
I don't know.
So I guess we don't do the cutting of the power.
I guess
Do
they don't
we-
work at night here, so there's probably none of those hyper bright fluorescent lights around, right?
you haven't seen anything like that, no.
I mean, are we opposed to just burning the building down?
So I think there are some questions that are unanswered, and burning the building may not provide the final solution to this present problem. Certainly may not take care of them, and it may alert them. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how effective burning the building down. Plus, like, we don't have anything to burn the building down. We'd have to go and get gasoline, and even that as an accelerant is not great.
There's also that chest in the church construction that Dr. C seemed interested in.
If Dr. C has shared that, I might volunteer that they may be building a house for the chest, some kind of keep or fortress, or some kind of ritualistic housing for some sort of something. It seems like a cult sort of operation, and if his soul is in there, he must want it in a very safe place, so that he may truly become the deathless.
Like a vault of some sort.
A gingerbread vault of some sort.
Gingerbread vault.
Could be.
How do we create bright light in the middle of the night?
Besides the phones,
My phone is not that bright.
I
Close up.
always have a go bag, so I just pull out a flashlight.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly believe that you all have phones that you could use as torches or something equivalent that you can use during the fight. But yeah, if you want something like coming back with a giant light that you can use in some sort of major way, that's probably involves coming back a different time.
You could trap them until dawn.
There's no external windows on the room, so I mean that will work to an extent, but it's not like a slam dunk.
we also don't know how they get in and out, as I said earlier. We think these are Kolshi's people, right?
We do.
We also think that there's a good chance that Baba Yaga goes down soon. And if there's no need for immediate intervention here, we could keep this in our pocket.
Well, I have a suggestion, because it's the way that I operate. I say that some of us go in and start slinging fists, bright lights, smashing through things. see what we can get from there, see how far we get. And one of us should say, Baba Yaga sends her regards.
I mean, Koshi kills Baba Yaga in the original timeline. Do we really want him to go after her early?
I don't know. I don't know what we should be doing.
This could draw him out. If we
The other thing we could do, now that we know this weird effed up bullshit is going on, is inform Baba Yaga that the reason that he's clearing the workers out during the day, or rather during the night, is he has people in there packaging drugs, which is her operation.
and that might push her to act for fear of being rolled over.
At least be curious.
Mhm. Mhm.
So the choice is to leave this alone right now, or if we do something, we've got to do it with some aggressive finality. Now, we know where I would vote if I were going to vote, so I'm going to put it in your three hands. I will abstain from the decision making on this.
Dr. C, what are you thinking?
Dr. C is thinking about a couple of things. One of them is traditionally witches get thrown into ovens when they are in gingerbread houses.
That is a vulnerability.
Not sure how to throw 20 invisible witches into how many ovens? 4 or 5?
They're not invisible. They're
not invisible.
witches. Just say they're micro. There's micro witches. They appear invisible, but they've got cloaks on. We can see where they are.
Yes.
So there must be at least a dozen of these industrial ovens in there. In terms of throwing people into them, you know that they have like quite a lot of shelves in there, so it would be hard to like fling. I mean, assuming that the witches are at all substantial, it would be hard to get a body in there with the shelves in the way.
Very not traditional witches ovens.
True.
Modernizing it destroys everything.
Modernization. Messed up with everything.
They
my whole plan.
gentrified this stupid witch space.
Things don't work like they used to.
Now, in the furnishings in this place, I don't know what level of finishing they've done, but are there lamps of any sort?
I think probably not. Like, it's not furnished to any great extent at this point.
Okay, so
there are some ceiling lights installed, but it looks like they haven't put the bulbs in yet.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So
we can't really use the photosensitive advantage, unfortunately, at the moment.
With your phones or something like that, but probably more in a one-on-one sort of way rather than to take them all out at one time.
Right.
Bear, what are you thinking about all this?
Bear is torn because having just had the interaction with the ladies of the lake, he wants vengeance on their behalf, but he's wary of wanting short-term vengeance and soiling the long-term. Like, his eventual dream is to push Cochet into that lake so that he may be devoured by the women whose skins he stole. That's what he wants to see happen, but he isn't against sending a message. I like Bear likes the idea of pushing people to act, because when Cochet is angry or is seeking revenge on Baba Yaga, he may overstep and he may provide a vulnerability. And I'm also all for thumping fairies who have aligned themselves with this horrible man. So I think you can see Bear kind of like he's conflicted, but he's itching to fight. Like Fadim, as a fighter, like his body language right now.
And Maeve? I mean, you've already advocated for burning down, but is that still what you're thinking, or what's your approach?
I'm leaning towards giving Baba Yaga a heads up about all this, seeing if we can, I don't know, get her to help or make a move. I don't know, just warn her about this.
We could send her the video we made. We could post it to Facebook, to
Yeah.
social media.
Except that doesn't look like drug stuff, though.
Ah, true enough.
I have a compromise suggestion. Let's assume that we're not going to beat them up tonight. We're not going to smash in there. We're going to do some other things before we do it. Let's assume that. In that case, I would like you all to back up down the hallway. And I want to see what happens when I go in there and they see me. And if they come after me like a pack of screaming banshees, then I will run. But let's see, are they automatons? Are they witches? Let's see what they are. How does that sound?
Would you be up for waiting till near dawn? I mean, I don't know. Does sunlight kill them?
We're not going to be able to get sunlight to them right here. I mean, we're in the, just get your phones ready so that if something does happen, you can block them out. Everyone cool?
If you lead them away, then if they actually empty out the oven, the baking room, we might be able to run in and do something, or at least clean up after them.
This is the ancient phrase of my people: fuck around and find out.
Fuck around and find out. I like the plan, Fadim.
All right, you all go down to that corner of the hall. Get your phones ready.
We cower.
And I'm going to open this door and walk boldly in.
All right, I love this. Let's take our break here and we'll come back and find out what is going to happen when Fadim boldly struts into that room. So
We'll come back and fuck around.
we'll come back and find out. Maybe 5 minutes?
Yep.
Right. All right, are we all ready to continue?
Yes.
All right. So for Dame, the first thing that you notice when you throw the door open and step inside is that the construction of the gingerbread church has advanced far more than seems possible since you were in here just, an hour ago. There's some sort of fine to go off camera. Some sort of supernaturally accelerated timeline happening here. It looks like they're only 2, maybe 3 days away from finishing the construction. The witch shadows certainly notice that you're there. There's a wailing or howling that starts to rise from them all as they turn towards you and start rushing at you. Are you going to flee? Are you muted?
I am going to flee, but I am going to wait until I'm pretty sure, like I've got the bulk of them. Like I'm
you definitely think they're all coming at you. So go ahead and make an athletics check.
Right.
Barry hears the howling and he's ready to fight.
Right. So my athletics is 3. So that's a 4.
All right. So they're going to come at you as well. Let's see how they do. Oh, they've beaten you by 1.
Then I am going to spend a fate point on Fallen Shield Maiden, and I am pumping like I mean it, like I am at war.
All right. I'm going to spend a fate point as well. I'm going to invoke Messy Construction Site. It's going to be a little bit hard to get out of there with all this stuff around everywhere. So that brings them back up. So they're not catching up with you with this, just to be clear. They're using their curse skill to try and attack you on your way out. So at the moment, you're looking at 1 point of physical stress. Or you can, of course, use another.
Now I think I'll
point.
take the 1 point of physical stress there on that and save the other fate points for the rest of the run.
All right. So what you see is that they all stop at the doorway, as if there's an invisible barrier there that they can't pass through.
Oh.
They continue to gnash and wail at you, gesturing helplessly as you step outside of the kitchen area.
Do they fire their curses out the door?
They don't seem to be able to do that either.
Interesting. Well, then I'll stop, and I think I'll take my phone out, and I'll snap a picture, and then I'll turn the light on.
There'll definitely be some wailing, some fleeing, things like that as the light sort of cuts through them.
Yeah.
They fall back into the room.
Interesting. I shut the door and I walk down the hall to where the others are. That gingerbread house is going to be done in a couple days, and they can't leave that room.
Did you actually go inside?
Yeah.
Okay, so we can go in.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you don't want to stay in.
Now, I thought they might be little little construct things that wouldn't be too big an issue. They're a little more substantial than that by my, at least my panicked estimation.
They scream pretty loud.
Yeah.
Could we make a siege on the gingerbread castle?
I mean, I brought a gun. I could.
Pick them off.
I think that we're going to have to come back if we're going to do that. That means one of two things. Either we go and try and get like the equipment now in the next couple of hours and come back, or we come back tomorrow. Now, mind you, we've like tripped something off, so who knows if what kind of alarm call has gone out, but we should probably get moving.
So if we cut the electricity to the ovens, will they stop baking?
I think they'll have to. So I think we should go downstairs and hit that breaker and then leave. It will at least put a dent in what they're doing.
Slow them down.
Yeah, because they can't come out and reset the breaker.
Clearly, they can't leave the room.
Let's go do that and let's get out of here.
Is everyone
Are
happy
you
with that?
okay, Bear? Are you okay? Have you gotten yourself a little warmer?
I'm warm. I'm battle hot.
I don't know what that means, but let's go.
You can figure it out.
So, sorry to put it down for on this when we finally have a plan, but would trains be running back from the Catskills to New York at midnight?
It's like a 3-hour train ride too. I checked, like 3 or 4 hours. We've got to like go find a motel.
Yeah, I'm sure that Maeve like found where there was a motel and she went out to track down a bar. Maybe even some rooms for rent above the Rowdy Tavern. All right. Yeah, so you all managed to get yourself rooms. I don't think it's worth
So
playing.
what happens when we cut the breaker? Do the ovens go off?
Well, yeah, you disconnect the power. The little bit of light that you could see under the door in that kitchen church construction area goes out immediately.
And are there blood-curdling screams of frustration?
I don't know. You don't hear anything like that.
Did they just shut off?
You can still hear the sort of swishing sound of movement that you detected previously from their cloaks. So they're still doing something in there, but it's not clear what it is.
They won't be able
tons
to
of
bake.
batter.
Mixing batter.
They're doing their prep. I know how it is. Let's go.
All right. So you get yourself set up in some motel rooms. What are you going to do about, like, did you bring, I mean, Maeve has a go bag, but did you bring changes of clothes? Like, I don't think you anticipated being out here overnight necessarily. Does Bear have anything to change into?
Bear washed his clothes in the lake.
Just going to wring them out and hang them in front of the space heater.
So Bear's walking around bare while his clothes dry. Maybe he took a long hot bath too.
Walk to like if there's if this is the Catskills, it's a tourist area. I'm sure there's a 24-hour store. Or even if it's just a drugstore, we'll go down and we'll buy essentially a cheap Catskills Mountains sweatshirt. That kind of thing. We'll buy some extra stuff of that. Spend some pocket money on that and energy bars.
Nice.
I see Fadine walking into the 7-Eleven underneath the very harsh fluorescent lights.
Absolutely.
Looking really pissed off that she has to buy a Catskills sweatshirt in extra large.
And there's that thing I get like more and more mad because I'm picking stuff up and then I realize I haven't got a basket and now I got to go to the front and get a basket and put it all in the goddamn basket.
Somehow you pulled the short straw to have to go to 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
All right. So, do you all just sleep late in the morning because you're getting to bed relatively late? Or are you going to be up at, is the plan to be up at dawn for something else or?
I think well, at least one of us should get up early in the morning, like before dawn, and maybe head back and see like does anybody arrive before the construction crew to check on what happened last night or anything like that? Maeve, are you good with doing that?
Yeah, that sounds good.
So we'll send Maeve out to gather intelligence and we'll get an extra hour of sleep.
Cool. So Maeve, you what head back up to that sort of surveillance point that you'd established last time, where you can look down over the construction site?
Yep, and just trying to see if anyone like comes in or out in a mysterious. Yeah.
Yeah. So, not long before sunrise, maybe half hour to an hour, you see a car arrive. Something quite fancy, maybe a BMW, something like that. Two figures get out of the car. You don't really see their faces as they head inside the clinic. They only spend a few minutes in there, but when they come out, one of them is unmistakably Koshe. You recognize him from media reports. That is the famous gang leader. What do you do?
I'm gonna text the group immediately. Like, Koshe is here.
You can see that both him and the other guy, who you don't recognize, are both on their cell phones immediately as they come outside, making calls.
The other text, they're making calls. I think that I'm guessing they are reacting to Fate him getting seen. If we're gonna move, we should move soon. Actually, if he's just in a car driving here, do we want to try? Actually, I'm just going to call up the group and be like, hey, he's in a car. I can probably guess which route he's going to take back to New York. Do we want to try to jump him in the car?
He might be here. Like big things are going down here. Now, if he got here this early this morning, I think he's probably close on site. Maybe we should figure out where. Maybe you could follow and figure out where he is actually at.
Sounds good. I'll do that.
Okay.
I mean, I think that what you'll figure out is that, like thinking about the timing, if he has driven out here from New York City, then it makes sense that he would have arrived about now after hearing about your entrance at the place earlier this morning.
Interesting.
Flushed him out.
Then I want to go and buy a disposable phone.
Mhm.
And because I've done that research on the people in the organization, I want to figure out who is the closest person to Baba Yaga that I can call.
I mean, you know about the organization, but you're not going to know their like phone numbers, right?
Well, but I can probably track back to some people and things. Can I do an investigate to try and get a phone number?
I mean, you could definitely investigate in that way, but to me, that's like legwork around New York City to figure out, unless there's a way that you think you could find it online or something like that. Like, how would she approach that?
Legal holdings, legal reports, lawyer things that maybe haven't been redacted. That'd be sort of how I would look at it. I mean, I don't know if that would work because I'm not sure what on the ground I would find in New York itself.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that fair enough. We'll go ahead and roll to investigate.
Basically, all I want is some kind of line of contact such that if I say something, there's a good chance somebody's going to pass it up the chain.
Yeah, okay. So for that for sure you can roll. Maybe not one of her like immediate contacts, but someone who would get word back to her.
Yeah.
Might suggest that Maeve could help you with this because Maeve did meet up with some low level street gangsters. So if Maeve has investigate, you're welcome to contribute a +1. But you don't. Sorry.
Well, I will go for it.
All right.
I have investigate, but I'm asleep.
All right. So the Baba Yaga crime family is going to roll their opposition using
Okay.
their stake and sealed skill. So they've rolled a 4.
Okay.
So you're 2 down from a tie.
Let's see. I want to.
If it helps, I don't know that you could necessarily invoke this right now, but the Baba Yaga crime family does have its own set of stats, including the aspect crime family or coven. So if there's a way you can invoke that, you give that a go.
So I think it's that, like, I know enough about the face stuff, and I know about the weird stuff that if there is some occult trappings to what's going on, I know to use that avenue in addition to the normal one.
Yeah, I buy that. So that brings you up to a tie, and a tie will get you.
I would like to take success with a cost.
Succeed at a serious cost. Okay, so you alert the Baba Yaga crime family to the fact that you're trying to get in there. You're happy with that?
Yeah, that there's a third party that was trying to get in there, but that essentially what I'm saying is your pal Cole, she took off in the middle of the morning this morning because he had to head up to the Catskills because someone was poking around the drug facility that he has set up at this new clinic he's been building and got him all shook up. And I'm wondering how much he's told you about his drug operations there.
Okay, so you get that message to the Yaga family. Were you trying to keep your own, like, were you trying to conceal your identity because you had the burner phone or whatever?
I expect that that may be part of the cost is that
yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
They have people who can track back, okay, where was this burner phone purchased? Okay, get us the surveillance, some dirty cop to get them the footage.
Yeah. All right. So you definitely get that message to the Yagas. How long it will take to sort of trickle up to Baba Yaga herself? Not totally clear.
Okay. Well, I've slit my throat. Your turn, guys.
I mean, Maeve, you were looking down at Crochet and one of his offsiders with a gun. Are you tempted to try taking either of them out?
I'm tempted to take the shot. I don't want to go off by myself if like the rest of the group isn't ready. So I guess I'll ask them like, hey, can anybody mind if I do this? Are you ready?
To what end?
See if he dies. I mean, is he deathless yet?
I don't think hot metal is going to do it with this man. I think we need to arrange a very specific set of circumstances for him to truly die.
That's all lore and thinking and stuff. So I don't know.
Well, I'm at least going to wait for them to leave and then slash the tires or something. I don't want to make it too easy for them to run.
They're gonna. I mean, if you don't do anything, they're gonna get in the car and drive away.
Oh.
That's what you see them going to do.
Get the plates.
Yeah. I'll write down the plates.
Sure.
If you want to go for it or invoke or compel a aspect, me as a player doesn't mind, but it's Bear is thinking of the the sort of like ritual of he might come out here on the final night before the completion of the house, and if we like bring some of Baba Yaga's people and show up here and like ambush him, it might be a big fight and we can push him in the lake and he can finally be truly dead. But if you wanted to try to put a bow in his brain.
I was thinking about that, but I don't think I have a good aspect for a compel here. I think I'll just let him go.
And Dr. C, what do you do when you eventually wake up?
Dr. C does kind of wake up and he sits up in the bed and he's got major bedhead. And he says, "What's going on?" So he kind of shakes the sleep out of his head and says, "Sounds like Maeve is over there by the building. What's the bakery look like during the day, Maeve?"
As soon as the sun comes up, there's going to be construction workers arriving and starting to get to work. So you can try and sneak in, or disguise yourself as a construction worker or something like that. But it's not a matter of just walking in there and finding out.
I think I'm gonna grab a clipboard and a hat, one of those hard hats, and just like act like I know what I'm doing and walk in.
Okay, that's amazing. But I'll come back to that. I just want to check with what everyone else is doing. So Bear, what are you thinking of doing this morning?
I guess waiting.
Dr. C whispers to Bear, "I'm hungry. Are you hungry, Bear?"
I'm always hungry.
Is it breakfast time?
It's brunch time.
You go down. I mean, I'm imagining that you got these rooms over the pub, so you can probably go down and get some basic meal there. And I think Fadem picked up some energy bars. If that's going to tide you over, but is that the plan? Just get some breakfast and wait and see what Maeve might have to say, or what fruit comes from Fadem. Fadem, what about you? These two are going to have some brunch downstairs in the tavern, I think. What are you doing?
I think I just go for a jog.
All right.
Just to kind of like familiarize myself with the streets and the general layout and that kind of thing.
All right. So, Dr. C and Bear, you are like halfway through your meal when two people come into the bar who just have organized crime written all over them, like they are straight from Central Casting, and they look around as they walk in. They walk over to the guy behind the bar. They have a sort of quiet conversation, and it's clear that the two of you are the focus of that conversation. They're casting glances over at both of you. What do you do?
Fast, tough guy glances right back. Like,
Dr. C,
I'm in a tavern. I'm in a tavern right now. You don't want to see me in a tavern. Dr. C should do something reasonable.
So they're talking about us over there, right? Well, we're in a public place, right? There are other customers around, I assume, having breakfast.
No, it's pretty empty apart from you and the barkeep, maybe one other guy.
Uh-oh. And these look like traditional human thugs. Right?
I mean, at least superficially they do. And they have definitely like started walking over towards your table, like they're coming over to talk.
Dr. C is going to text Vadim. He knows that she's out jogging, and he just texts, "We might be in trouble in the restaurant."
So these two
Gentlemen.
guys sit down by your table. And the bigger of the two, though not as big as Bear, will just say, "What brings the two of you out to this area? You don't look like you're from around here."
We're a couple just wanting to see the beautiful Catskills.
And have you liked what you've seen?
It's very romantic here.
Like something out of a storybook.
Sort of glares at you. Can I ask, is your intention here to convince them that you are just a couple, or are you just
Fucking with them?
Yeah, basically.
Sure, we could try to
Or
dissimulate.
maybe deceive is not the right word. You did just spend the night in a room together. Maybe I misspoke.
Maybe you did. No, maybe in the future timeline, but Bear's gonna wait to see if it happens the same way.
Okay.
I think I don't know. I think Bears can't help but fuck with them a little bit, but I think Dr. C might. I don't know. I'm not going to speak for you, but
Alright.
if Dr. C really tries to sell it, Bear will back him up. But Bear's also just he's used to trading words like this.
Dr. C.
Yeah, Dr. C will play it as sincere, and just to see what happens.
Alright.
And what's the worst that can happen? They think we're bullshitting, and then we're in the same spot we were before.
Alright. Well, do you want to
So
roll to
Dr. C
deceive?
kind of, yeah, sure. Oh, I don't think I have very good deceive. Let's see. I think it's just a 0, so I'll just be a flat roll.
Same.
Unless, do you have deceive?
I don't, but
Okay.
if I imagine that doesn't make me very useful for help.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, also you don't seem to be trying to deceive them, so I don't think you can really help if you're not trying to do the same
If
thing.
you're not trying to deceive. All right, let's see what happens. What the hell? Is it rolling?
All right.
A
So
0.
they will not believe you.
Okay.
One of them will open up his jacket to let you see his gun, and he says, "All right, come with me. Come with us. We want you to talk to someone." What do you do?
These gentlemen are very insistent, Bear.
It's not that easy. We don't just come to see someone. Give us a name for this
Yeah, who is he?
appointment. Is he cute?
What do you want?
I'm sure you get along with him great. I'm sure you've heard of him. His name's Alexander Cochet. He's been in the news.
Ooh, the mob boss. He sounds scary.
All the way out here.
What's he doing in the Catskills? Also vacationing?
Listen, I don't want to shoot either of you in this nice bar where this man is just trying to make a living. But you should save any questions, any comments about our boss until you get to speak to him face to face. You're going to come with me? Or am I going to shoot you first? I think at this point, Fedim comes into the bar, gets back, and you see exactly what's going on at a glance.
I think we can get up and like just feign a bit of compliance.
Then I kind of jog over to the table, or not their table, but over like to the bar, like, do you have a pot of coffee on?
He nods and looks nervously over at these two guys who sort of glance back and see that you're sorting yourself out. Don't seem to be paying too much attention to you.
All right. Well, then I grab the tip jar and I'm bringing it down on one of their heads.
Nice. Well, let's come back to this scene. Let's go see how Maeve does at the construction site. So, Maeve, you want to grab yourself a hard hat and a clipboard and just sort of strut on in. I reckon roll to deceive.
All right.
I think just passive opposition of 2 for this one.
2.
All right, so that's a tie. So you will. Sorry, I always have to look up what the tie result is because it's not intuitive for me. Tie on overcome. You can succeed at a minor cost, such as you're in a tough spot, the opponent gets a boost, or you suffer some harm. Alternately, you can fail but take a boost.
I'm gonna spend a fate point on my turncoat changeling infiltrator aspect.
Oh yeah, that's perfect, isn't it? Yeah. All right. So what does that look like? Like somebody looks at you funny as you try to pass yourself off. How do you convince them that you're supposed to be there?
Just kind of do like a smile, nod, like, "Oh, hey, you again," and then just walk on by with supreme confidence.
All right. And then you head straight towards where the church is being built. Is that the plan?
Yes.
All right. You open up the door where you left the witch shadows last night.
Mhm.
All right. So in daylight, there is no sign. The ovens are turned off. You think on your way in, you will have heard one of the construction workers talking about the power. Somebody seemed to have cut it. They've got it back on. I guess the ovens will be still turned on. So the ovens are all on because the power's come back on. They've just switched automatically back on and nobody's interfered with them. The gingerbread church is nowhere to be seen. You can see the large empty space on the floor that it seemed to occupy last night, but there's nothing there now, except in the middle of the floor. And you've seen the video that Dr. C took of this room, so you know where that chest was sitting last night. Right where that ornate chest appeared in Dr. C's video is just an ordinary cardboard box. Looks like it's closed with packing tape. What do you do?
I'm gonna take out the box cutter and just open up the box.
All right. When you open the box, what you see inside is a human head. The head sort of rolls back to look up at you with its eyes, which clearly are still alive. The head has no mouth. It looks like its mouth has been somehow magically sealed or closed. And the eyes look up at you with an expression of panic and distress. What do you do?
Out of curiosity, I say to the severed head, blink twice if you're Marat the Butcher Kulinov.
It doesn't blink.
Can you hear me? Blink twice if you can hear me.
It does blink twice.
Okay. Do you know Koche?
It blinks twice.
Okay. I don't like him. I assume you don't like him either.
Just the most frantic blinking imaginable.
I'm going to get you out of here, and we're going to do what we can to stop him and maybe get you your body back if that's possible.
It blinks at you, but also its blinking is interrupted as if something terribly painful is happening to it. There's this look of raw pain that sort of ripples across its face.
Okay, yeah.
You tape, you seal up the box again, and then you just walk out with it?
Yep.
Amazing. All right. I mean, maybe just to make this a little bit simpler to navigate, we'll have you arrive back at the bar as well, just as everything kicks off. Does that work for you?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. And look, I'm tempted to just pause here because I think the fight scene will take longer than we have left, and it probably makes sense to leave it and start with that next time. So what I'd like to do just before we finish up, we'll get to stars and wishes in a sec, is just talk about relationship aspects, if anyone has any ideas about what those might be. So I'll just go across the character keeper, starting with Dr. C again. Have you had, I mean, it's fine if you still just want to think about it some more, but do you have any thoughts on what your relationship aspect might be?
Let's see. So it's the relationship aspect should be with another PC, and just one, right? It's not so much with the
I think
gang.
it could. Yeah, I mean, it's not the gang as a whole. Like, it could, I guess, be for a couple of people, but it seems like
Right.
it's more intended to be one-on-one sort of dynamic.
Yeah, yeah. I think, let's see. Well, let me talk to Matt about this, and maybe, because there's some sense like maybe there was something going on between the bear and future Dr. C, and or at least you mentioned something like that, and that, but so maybe that's more your aspect than it is young Dr. C's, because young Dr. C won't know about it unless he feels something about it.
Well, I mean, the relationship aspect is really your opportunity to just to say whether you feel something about it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Dr. C feels some kind of charge, and also some kind of he feels like protected by the bear, or maybe oh, I'm only getting Spanish verbs now in my head. Sorry. I like warm and fuzzy kind of I want to cuddle up inside the bear's arms kind of feeling. I could think about how
Yeah.
I might word an aspect like that.
That sounds like a good starting point.
Okay. Well, give me a moment, and maybe other people can go, and I'll think about wording.
Sure, thanks. Shanad, do you have any thoughts about your relationship aspect?
I mean, I do like that connection quite a bit. I don't know how it works with just like aspects just going back and forth. There is also like, it seems like Fadim is kind of the one that pushes Bear to fight, sort of. Like, Bear is kind of he isn't always like, he was a captain and he's kind of a story person, but he is like a fighter at heart. And I think now that he's like trying it again, he's trying to distance himself from the like end times warrior that he was, that lost all of his friends in battle. But I think Fadim is kind of bringing that back out of him again. And I don't know what an aspect like that would be, but
yeah, you think you're going to be able to start a wonderful new life here. That's why you don't want to mess it all up. And I know that it's doomed.
yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that just calling it like Fadim as an instigator or something like that could work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, take some time to think about how you might want to express that.
All right, cool.
Maeve, do you have any thoughts on your relationship aspect?
Well, I was thinking, I mean, Dr. C is the only one who hasn't lived through the apocalypse once already. I've seen something like Dr. C is soft.
Oh, nice. Normally I would ask Dr. C if that was okay, but the enthusiastic nodding gave me an answer.
No, he's pretty soft.
All this talk about Aikido or whatever, it's like, wow. let's see.
And Fadim, what about you?
I think it's something equivalent to Maeve is even more apt to put their head in the lion's mouth than I am, ? Because I'm not sure I would have done what Maeve did several times here, or suggested. I think I'm a little shocked at Maeve's just 0 to 60. Does that seem fair?
Maeve's a bigger badass than me.
Oh no, not that.
Yeah, that sounds fair.
That's great. So if you haven't like named the aspect, you can take some time and think about that. But I'm really happy with those. So I'm going to stop the recording here, and then we'll do stars and wishes. Now I've got to remember not to hit the end session button, but to hit the end recording button.